back with the man, myth, the legend, Lance Lambert, CEO of Resi Club, and he's always housing. Most recent article I thoroughly enjoyed are the top 100 markets underwater. Yes, he has done research on the 300 largest markets in the country, and as of today, we have 100 or 1/3 of them underwater. Lance, this was an amazing report. It allows me to see what's going on across the country. What's getting better? What's getting worse? What say you?
You know, one of the bad things I had last week is I had 3 articles that came out with 100 in the headline. And so mix them all up. I think the one you're referring to, the 100, I had the 300 largest markets and 100 had prices down year over year. For
Correct.
underwater,
right. Underwater's
analysis of the 100 largest markets. Yes. And nationally, a year ago, 1.3% of U.S. homes were underwater.
Right.
Now it's up to 2%. Now that number, you know, while it's doubled, is still fairly low if you zoom out. So do you want to guess what the number was in 2009 nationally?
Oh, 2009, depths of the crash?
Yeah, middle of 2009.
Oh my God. So I'll go 5.8%.
23%.
No!
And in your state of Nevada, what do you think it was there?
Oh God, it was definitely worse. I'll go 40%. No idea.
It was close to 65%. 2/3 of all the homes on the market. Yeah. And that doesn't account for transaction costs. So that other, third, some of them maybe might have still been underwater if you include transaction cost.
You know, it's really funny to me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a housing analyst, obviously quoted by Newsweek, and her name does not need to be mentioned, but she's quoting a 50% housing crash, bigger and faster than the 2008 crash. And again, you have the numbers. We're at 2.3% underwater. We're nowhere close to 2008. So again, it's just some people have PTSD and some people have data. And I'm glad you have the data. So thank you for that. Let me bring up what you're showing. There you go.
And so you can see here, 1.3% were underwater last year. Now 2.1%. Again, 23% nationally back in September 2009. And so despite prices in some of these markets falling, why is the national number not down, or why is the underwater share not higher? And I think it's really 3 reasons. One is that when you aggregate single family prices, we're pretty close to all-time highs, regardless of the methodology you do for existing. Now, if you look at new construction, different story. But if you look at existing, right, because you have to have already had that home bought for it to be underwater, they've been firmer, right, for prices. If you're with it nationally. Now, there are pockets of the West, Southwest, Southeast that have seen prices decline from their pandemic housing boom peaks. But nationally aggregated, still pretty close to all-time highs. The second reason, and this one is really important that gets lost in all the noise, is the amortization of the ultra-low rates.
Yes.
And so the way that these, the ultra-low rates, those 2%, the 3%, you're paying a higher share of principal out of the gate. So somebody that got a mortgage in 2021 at a 3% interest rate is paying that off faster than somebody historically at a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%, let alone you go back to 1981, 18% rate. And so, my mortgage even right out of the gate, I was already pretty much paying more or just about as much on principal as interest, which historically that, it's taken much longer to build up to that. And so because people have paid down their principal faster, it's created a greater buffer. And that's one of the unique factors of this cycle, is that people have gained equity faster. And then the third reason is that fewer buyers actually purchased at the peak in correction markets. So if you look at Austin, you look at Cape Coral, some of these markets that have come down materially, Austin, depending on if you look at Freddie Mac, it's down close to 20% for single family for the metro. And if you look at Zillow, it's close to 27. Regardless of the index you look at, that peak though, that happened in Q2 2022, April, May, was very brief. And so by the end of the year, Austin had already blown off about 10% for prices for the metro. But that was only about 2 months of appreciation. because Austin was going up so fast. Austin and Boise were up close to 40% year over year at one point.
Wow.
And so the actual number who bought at the absolute peaks was a smaller pool than the past cycle. The problem with the 05, 06 is you sat at that peak for so long that when the price declines came, those vintages were big. And the vintages were bigger than they should have been because some of the mortgage products at the time. That
is the largest difference that nobody's talking about, the 05, 06 vintage versus the 23, 24 vintage, is the vintage done recently is fixed rate debt. So you don't have payment shock. What got most people and what started the cascade, because I invested through it and I saw it up close and personal. People had payments at $900 that suddenly became $2,700 and they just couldn't afford it. Right? Because the story in 05, 06 is just refi till you die, because housing only goes up. I mean, that people said that stuff out loud, Lance, and that's just nonsense. So we had 50% adjustable rate mortgages, right? 50% of the vintages were adjustable, and that's what exploded. We don't have that problem today.
And so let's take a look at the map. So here's the data according to ICE Mortgage Technology, which they were bought for like $13 billion a couple years ago. They used to be Black Knight. So if you ever hear Black Knight, now that's ICE Mortgage Technology. In Austin, it's 9.2%, which still, for falling 27%, so nationally we fell, Case-Shiller, 27% peak to trough last cycle on a nationally aggregated basis. Austin has seen that according to the Zillow Home Value Index, and Austin still only has 9% underwater. Whereas when we had the 27% peak to trough last time, before we had even got fully to the 27% at the end of 2011, by middle of 09, 23% of all mortgages were underwater.
And that's the point you just made about we were not at the peak very long. That really points to that excellent point you just had.
Yeah, and then the faster pay down of principal at those low rates would make it to where we're not going to have that same level of underwater, even if prices were to fall more than it is currently expected. And so where the higher number of underwater is the places you would think of, the Texas, the Florida markets that have gone through some of these corrections. Some of that's because some of those markets saw prices go up 70% during their pandemic housing boom in 18 months.
Crazy.
And the other factor is there was a lot of construction that was financed in those markets at the ultra low rates, both the multifamily, single family, as that's came into the market in this affordability constrained environment. And they've done the incentives and net effective price cuts to move that product. That creates a cooling effect on the resale market. And then the other factor that is really important is that we are in a cyclical cool down for net domestic migration. And so there's fewer people selling their house in an Illinois, Connecticut to go move down to Florida, to go move down to Texas. And so as that lock-in effect occurs on them, that's one fewer seller in a market like a Connecticut, but it's one fewer buyer down in the Texas to Florida. And so that bifurcated effect of the lock-in effect, very much feeling that. And so Lakeland is the highest, then Cape Coral, Austin, San Antonio, then Jacksonville. If you follow this, closely, especially my reporting of the regional housing market dynamics, none of it should surprise you too much. And then this chart here is to show that some of that velocity of change, where you can see some of the markets over the past year have jumped from 5% to 10%.
Love all of this. The other thing that happened last week, just love to get your early insight on, is mortgage rates dipped below 6% again. There for a couple of days, back to 6. I think today back to 5.99. Any thoughts on what might happen in the spring selling season? Any early indication, or is it just too soon to tell?
Yeah, I think we're, if you look at some of the data, we're getting a good amount of noise because some of the, seasonal, some of that, winter snowstorm in January, right? That's affected some of the data. I think that largely speaking, though, I think that it's still going to be another year of constrained turnover for the existing market. And really what we're waiting on for the existing market is at what level do we hit that equilibrium point where we start to see an increase in the existing home sales. You get you look like the market maybe is trying to, come up a little bit for existing home sales. And, every time it kind of starts, it kind of pulls back. And a lot of it is just that affordability on that switch.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though rates have come closer to 6, it's still a lot of people. They would have to take such a higher monthly payment to make that sell and purchase. Now, another thing to remember is that if you go back to 2022, as that rate shock occurred, we had fallen all the way to the floor for existing home sales, even before and as we came to 6% mortgage rate, right? And so the whole way then past 6% mortgage rates, and even when we got to 8, existing home sales didn't fall that much more, right? We hit that floor, that demographic floor, the deaths, divorces, the things that have to happen. And then even as rates kept going, we didn't go any further past the floor.
No, we
On the
didn't.
way back down, we haven't quite unlocked that existing transaction either. So even though mortgage rates are down 80 basis points right now, we haven't seen a huge amount of churn unlocked. But I think if you zoom back out and remember, as we went up, we had already hit that floor before we had got even to 6.8 anyway. So I think that that's something important to keep in mind. But in terms of this year, I think that things still look very much like nationally aggregated. We're in a softer market, soft, but it's not seen the shift of the softening that we had seen at the second half of 24 into 25. That softening effect seems to really just stabilized into a soft market. Now that's good for affordability, because the longer that we stay very close to very little national level of appreciation and we're below income growth, we're getting that healing for the fundamentals, right? We're getting healing.
Absolutely.
And so I think that is still where we are. Nothing has changed too much. We're not seeing a big softening burst in like we saw last year, but we are at a soft equilibrium point. And then for existing home sales, it looks like this is going to be another year of constrained existing home sales. Maybe it inches up a little bit. And maybe we start to see that now that we're a little further away from that January. But the thing that I think is most important, the most important thing for housing right now, in terms of understanding where the market is going, is now that we have had a duration of the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate pretty close to 6 flat, right? And if you look at the VAs and the FHAs, they're at like 5.8, 5.7, right?
Yeah.
So we've had that duration of this clip down in mortgage rates. Let's see if that equilibrium point is now starting to move up for existing home sales. And if it doesn't, that is an important signal, because it tells us that point is a little further off. The trough is kind of more to go. And so right now we are at a Groundhog's Day for existing home sales. The pricing is, if you're objective, you understand what's going on in the pricing market, right? It's just soft. It's just stayed soft. It's not softening further. Not really a big firming. It's just kind of stayed soft. But the existing market, we're at a Groundhog's Day to see if now is that point where we start to come out of the trough and move into that recovery. I think it'll, maybe be up a tad. Is kind of really, I think one of the numbers that matters more for me for the existing part is we got to see where new listings move. If we start to see another step up for new listings, that's a signal of something that churn trying to come back into the market. And if you go back to last year, when we had seen that burst of softening, right, and more of the market's falling for prices, we started to see new listings pull back again, right, where some of the sellers were like, I'm not game for this, right? I'm not. And that goes back to the underwater part. Just because some of them are underwater does not mean they're in distress.
Correct.
There's a difference, right?
Correct.
And that's the other nuance about the GFC is prices fell a lot, they go underwater, but then there was also the distress, and then they compounded together. And
correct.
There was a Fed study that came out that found the further you go underwater, it creates there's this effect where it creates an acceleration in foreclosures, as they're just like, you know what, I'm handing the keys, right?
Yeah, mailbox keys, yeah. Jingle mail, they called it jingle mail, yeah.
There's some level of underwater that it then creates another clip down of an acceleration down. And even the markets that have seen the increase in underwater, even in those places, you're not seeing that many of the foreclosures. Although, there are some pockets of the multifamily side stuff and over into those areas. But we're not going to get into that today.
Yep. Lance, housing. No, if you aren't following Resi Club, you are missing out. Where can they go to check out your writings?
Yeah. So if you want to follow my work, you're a fan of just objective data, let's get into the numbers, take a look at it, multiple different angles, single family, home building, regional housing market dynamics, mortgage market dynamics. Go to resiclubanalytics.com, put in your email, get into my free list. I send out a few articles every week.
Awesome. You're amazing, man. The work that you do for the housing market is second to none. You're the best. Take care. Have fun. Later.